Hi, this is Jordan Belfort, and welcome to Straight Line Persuasion. I'm really excited about this product. If there's one skill in my life that's really allowed me to soar to the highest level financially, it's the ability to influence and persuade people, to be a closer, so to speak. And I've taught this skill to over 12 or 13,000 people over the years, and in just about every business you can imagine, starting with Wall Street all the way to Main Street, and just from the internet to real estate to anything you can imagine. And if this one skill of persuasion is so impactful on people's lives, you have to ask yourself, why is it that so often we do everything that we need to do to become successful? We learn all the tools and strategies, yet we don't teach ourselves how to actually make our concepts and our visions and our thoughts known to another person. How do you actually influence somebody to want to do business with you? How do you essentially close the sale? Not just a product sale, but for information, for your vision, whether you're in a relationship with your spouse, trying to get your kids to make your bed. There's a force inside you, this force that once it's unleashed, that allows you to really make your thoughts known in a very compelling way. Now, my journey has been a rocky one along the way, because when I developed this skill in the beginning, I didn't really pin it with an ethical undertone. It was about making as much money as you can, as fast as you can. And I will tell you this, it was unstoppable. The average age of the person working for me was in their early 20s. The average IQ, wasn't up there in the stratosphere. It was just average people and sometimes below average. But what you have here is a system that allows any person, regardless of their age, race, creed, color, socioeconomic background, educational status, it allows any person to master the art of persuasion, to actually close the deal versus talking about closing the deal. And in the end of the day, that's what it's all about. So now I broke this system up here into 10 distinct modules, and each module is extremely important. So you can do this now in a couple of different ways. You can do one module a day for 10 days, which is what I really recommend. Or if you're, short of time, you can really spread it out over 10 weeks. Although my experience with that is that people tend to get a little bit less out of it because you lose the continuity of it all. I structure the modules in a specific order, a syntax, as we say, to make sure that you can let one skill build upon the next. And each skill by itself is crucial to your ability to persuade and influence. But when taken together as a system, you'll be shocked at how effective you become. Another option is you can actually do the whole 10 modules in 1 weekend. You lock the door, you make sure there's no interruptions, and you actually master this. And you're going to get a workbook that comes along with each DVD. And I want you to make notes in this workbook and use it as a way to reinforce what you're learning, because there's different ways that we learn. You're actually going to learn something very powerful here in terms of how you process information, how you store information, how you retrieve the information. And my goal here, and I've done this thousands and thousands of times, is to take you and someone like you and to make you what's called unconsciously competent with your ability to persuade and influence. That means you could do it without thinking about it. And when you're doing that, when you're actually in tune with what's in here, not just up here, you're selling from your heart and influencing from your heart, not only will you be even more effective, but you're going to learn to enjoy it. Now, I know some of you are saying, enjoy persuasion? I hate persuasion. I understand that. And the reason is because you just don't know what it really means. Persuading is not about getting people to do things they don't want to do or shouldn't do. It's about allowing people to overcome the obstacles that are holding them back from taking action. Actions they should be taking. And these people who are shut down for whatever reason, whether it's their beliefs about buying, whether it's a fear that if they do take action and don't succeed, they'll look stupid, whatever it might be, your ability, once you learn this system, the straight line system, to help people overcome those obstacles and barriers is going to be so empowering to them that they're going to really just be very grateful that they did take action. So I want you to feel confident that once you master this skill, it's going to change your life on every level, and also with the way you talk to yourself. You see, we have this voice in the back of our head that very often doesn't serve us. It sometimes destroys us. It stops us from taking action. And when you learn this system here, the straight line system, you're going to find that voice in your head makes a bit of a shift. And you come from this place of lack of confidence to total confidence. You come from a place of uncertainty to a place of certainty. And most importantly, you come from a place where being disempowered is a thing of the past, and empowerment on a very high level is where you live day to day. That's my goal when I created this program. And ironically, when I first was out there teaching this straight line, mostly in the corporate world, I didn't think I'd ever really make a program out of it, but the demand was huge. I get people, where's the straight line? Can we take it home with us? So I created the product for that precise reason. So I would ask you to do this. I want you to really just take this very seriously because it is the single most powerful and important skill that can take you to a whole new level in your business. Whether you own your own business, you're an employee, it's going to be the skill that defines you, that allows you to move up the ladder as an employee or move up the corporate ladder as an owner and make massive sums of money without nearly as much effort as you thought. So I want you to enjoy the program right now. We're going to start off. The first module is basically an introduction to the straight line. And you're going to learn the basic tenets of straight line persuasion, starting with your ability to control the sale. How do you actually take somebody who doesn't really know you and establish some very core principles of being an expert, of having them see value in your product or your idea, and also the fact that whatever company you represent, if it's your own company, how to get the right perception of what your company represents. Do they trust your company? Does your company have integrity? You're going to learn in a very short period of time through things like tonality, through body language, and also through distinct language patterns, how to create those powerful elements that allow you to persuade elegantly and effectively. By the way, one of the things I want you to notice here is that you might find that sometimes the quality of the film, it's not, perfect, super high definition 4-camera video. And there's a reason for that. I purposely filmed this live because I wanted you to see me in front of an audience of people where we can have an exchange of energy. See, there's only so much I can say to you when I'm speaking into a camera like I am now. I can relate to you, some stuff from my heart and some logical stuff, but when I get in front of people and we have that exchange of energy, it really allows me to soar to a whole new level of certainty, to access information in my own mind that goes back, 20, 30 years. So that's really why I didn't just make this some dry, educational video where I told you specific steps here, step A, step B, step C. I wanted you to see it in action, what it's really like when I train people. Because I found that, when someone gets in front of me, when I get to train them in a room, even if there's 500 people in the room, the results are so much better versus them reading about it in a book. So let's get started right now. Module 1, which is Introduction to the Straight Line. I want you to watch the DVD, take your notes, and I'll see you on the other side. So I want to tell you real quickly here, my I wouldn't say reticence, but I was like resistant to going out and teaching the straight line. And I'll tell you why I was resistant. Is because if it's used the wrong way, it can be really evil and manipulative. You get people to do things they shouldn't do, to buy things they shouldn't buy. It's very, very manipulative if it's used the wrong way. I could take any person, just, any human being with the straight line, and I want to just draw it for you real quick, just so you know what it is. Something you're going to see a lot of in the next 2 days. And literally, I promise you this, I don't care if you're the best salesman in the world. Some of you on a scale of 1 to 10, you're probably a 10. Best salesman ever. Some of you could be a 1. You're just starting out. And there's where you are, right? It's fine. No big deal. The straight line can take any person, any human being, regardless of age, race, creed, color, socioeconomic background, educational status, it does not matter. I'll take any one of you and make you an absolute killer on the phone, in person, it doesn't matter. That's what the straight line does. And when I invented it back in 1988, I had the greatest intentions. I really did. I wanted to take young kids that were 18, 19 years old with zero sales experience, and my goal was to take them, make them into killers. And I came up with this visual. Just want you to take a look at it. And this is the straight line. It's as simple as that. And what it basically is, it's goal-oriented selling. Rather than, when I walk into a sales force and I train corporations for selling, 99% of the time when I walk into a company, they hand me like their pitch sheet or whatever it might be. They all have like lead sheets or and their presentation sheets, right? And usually it looks like just a giant sheet of paper with lots of words on it. And, if the customer says this, you do this, and it's this giant blob, an amorphous blob. And usually what I'll do to get their attention is I'll light it on fire. I'll just light the thing on fire. Say, this is the biggest piece of shit, excuse my language, I've ever seen in my life. Because most of the time, the scripts that you see out there, what they force a salesman to do is go around in circles. and there's no actual goal-oriented start and a finish. And that's the real key to selling. It doesn't just apply to selling. It's in all situations of communication. Whether it's with your spouse, and I caution you when you learn some of this stuff, some of it could be really manipulative with your spouse. So don't use it for that. Use it to really, for the right reasons. Here's what the right reason is. It's, number one, to get people to buy things that they should buy. To overcome obstacles to buying that they should have. We all have these buying obstacles. And there are these limiting beliefs we have about buying and making decisions, and they hold us back from taking action. So what the straight line really does is a very regimented way to get someone, which this is called the promised land here, right? Where they give you their credit card number, they give you cash, whatever it might be, whatever you're selling. I know you're selling a lot of different stuff here, different products, right? And this is where you start right here. Okay, and what's going to happen here is you're going to learn to know these dotted lines that are right here on either side of your sale. And you're going to learn to become masters of controlling every linguistic encounter. And that's the key to the straight line. What it allows you to do is before you start, before you make any sale, I don't care what you're selling, if it's cars, stocks, credit repair, debt settlement, subscriptions to a magazine, memberships to a club, seminars, it doesn't matter. Every sale is the same. And now you say, well, wait a second, every sale is not the same, right? They say different stuff and people have different objections. I get that. What I'm saying is that you're going to learn to take every person's objections and manage them in a way that empowers them, but that also allows you to keep control of the situation, of the sale. Because what happens is once they take control of the sale, you're done. And those of you who are experienced, you kind of know that. The key to selling is to maintain control of the sales. I want to give you some background into sort of what some of the stuff you might have taken sales courses in the past, and I wanted to kind of demystify some things about what selling really is. And I want you to know that I've trained about 20,000 people, and I've never had a person, zero, I've never had a person not blow up and become wildly successful with a straight line as long as I had 3 attributes, and I'll tell you what they are. Number one is a desire to be really wealthy. If you don't have that, you really can't be in sales. You have to have a desire to be wealthy, and it's got to be a burning desire. And that really is about finding out what your whys are in life. Why are you doing what you're doing? If you're just doing it for a buck to make a little bit of money, that's not a really powerful why. So we're going to get into that later. The second thing is you need to be able to take advantage of an opportunity when it comes knocking at your door. Like right now. I'm telling you, I could take any one of you and dramatically increase your production by at least 50%, the first month. Anything that you don't like that I say, just disregard it. But I promise you this, that what I'm going to say, if you accept it into your heart, it will blow you away and it will change your life. I've made more millionaires with this system than you could possibly imagine. Millionaires, many times over. People that worked for me that were losers were making $250,000 a year. The losers. Winners were making $600,000, $700,000, and the real winners were making $2 million, $3 million a year using the straight line. And some of them were 18 years old and had been working in a pool room the year before, or a car wash. Seriously. Had zero sales experience, but using the straight line would just literally soar. They would soar. Because what it does, it gives you the psychology to understand what selling is all about. And I caution you again, if anything, please, please, please maintain your ethics with this. Please. Because you're going to, when you really understand the power of it, you're going to see how it can be really, really evil if it's used the wrong way. And I went off course. I did. I went off course. I took this and I, went wild. I was making $50 million a year. $50 million a year. Not sales, profit. In my pocket, $1 million a week, and I was 25 years old. So I went wild. I started doing massive quantities of drugs. I went off the charts. I'm sober for 13 years, which is a great accomplishment, but I went through hell to get to this point of clarity right now.
where everything I tell you will be 100% appropriate and ethical. So please, everyone, raise your hand and say aye if you agree not to use this for unethical reasons. Raise your hand and say aye. Okay, thank you, great. That's really important to me because you can't go out there hog wild with this stuff because you're going to get people to do, you're going to be shocked. I've had people I train next to like, I just doubled my production. I'll show you some testimonials afterwards. And by the way, if I was looking to close you, I would have started today off with like 20 testimonials. And we'll get to that too. But that's not the purposes of today. This is just to train you and educate you. In the old days, they say, okay, you're going to develop rapport 10% of the time, right? 20% of the time will be qualifying. Then you have 30% where you'll be actually presenting and 40% closing. And the example of this is like, you ever seen the movie Tin Men? Where like they're these door-to-door salesmen. They go in for a couple of seconds. They drop a $5 bill on the floor. They said, ooh, is this your money to, get credibility with the people? They develop rapport like that. Then they go and give a quick couple of questions they can afford, and they slam the presentation, and bam, they close until either the person says no, or they just hit them over the head until they say yes. That's the old selling model. And this model's got a bad rap. Okay, if you say to someone, oh, I sell them a closer, it has some stigma to it. So they came up with the new model, which I think is a total joke. Okay, here's the new model. Okay, right here. Okay, and what this is called consultative selling. And this is selling for people that don't want to admit they're selling. They're like, I'm not really selling anybody. I'm just filling people's needs by asking them what they want. So what happens is this. Most of the time is spent building relationships or developing rapport, 40% of the time, right? 30% of the time, right, you're identifying what their needs are. Then you present solutions 20% of the time, and then you close 10% of the time. So you're really never even closing, just a little sliver, right? This is the biggest crock of shit I've ever seen in my life, okay? And I'll tell you why, okay? And you're in sales, right? If you're not closing, you got to get out of the business, okay? You know when your closing starts in sales? I'll tell you exactly when it starts. It starts right here. The instant you open up your mouth, you're closing the sale. Every word that you utter is about getting to this point of the line. There's nothing evil about selling or persuading or influencing if you're selling a quality product and if you've qualified the person out and it's what they need. But you got to wipe the shit out of your head that there's anything wrong with influencing people. If that's how you feel, and I don't think there's really anyone in this room that feels it because you're salespeople. But sometimes I walk into a room and they're like, well, I'm not really a salesperson per se. I'm just like, identifying people's needs and trying to fill them elegantly. So here's what I ask you for. There's only two things. Number one is 60 days. And please write this down. This is important. For the next 60 days, while you embrace this system, and I promise it will dramatically improve your production, I want you to stretch. And what that means is you work twice as hard. I've been in business about 50 times in my life. I've taken public about 120 companies, raised $1.5 billion for venture capital. And I'll tell you this, I failed about 40 times. Been bankrupt. Had business I built up, didn't work, right? So what happens in life is this. There are certain windows that you have when things are working. And when you have that, you got to work twice as hard. It's like a window to jump through of opportunity, right? That's the way it is. So what I want you to do is right now, when you're first learning the system, don't say, okay, well, it really works. I'm just going to kind of do what I always did. However many calls you're making, I want you to make twice as many calls. If you're dressing a certain way, dress that way every second of the day. Whatever your commitment is to your thoughts, what you're thinking about, where you're going in life, the goals you're setting, I want you to stretch them, not forever. Not forever, just for 2 months, 60 days. Because that's the kind of the amount of time that it takes for you really to take hold and internalize this stuff, okay? So that's number one, okay? Ethical guidelines, this is the second thing. And I said it again, and I said before, I'll say it again, okay? Number one, okay, do not pressure a client to do something they should not do. Write that down, please, and ensconce it indelibly in your mind. And in about 2 hours, you'll say, I know why he's saying that now. Because you're going to realize there are certain unconscious buying triggers and certain tonal patterns that make people buy things they shouldn't buy when used the wrong way. Do not use this for that. Okay? Next, never pressure a client to do something they shouldn't buy. So don't to do something or buy something. Right? Very important. Okay? The widget. Anyone know what a widget is? Anyone know? It's a mythical product. What's a widget, right? That's the question, okay? When we were in school, they taught us about widgets in economics. What a widget is if you want to make a model of something, what you do is you come up with a basic overall model. It doesn't really matter what the product is, but you can then take the product through all layers of production, through producing it, through distributing it, selling it, marketing it, right? The old widget, okay? So here's the challenge that I face when I deal with a group of diverse people, because you're all from different industries. Rather than coming up with because I need to have a script here that I take you through for tonal patterns. So rather than taking from, for credit repair or auto sales or stocks or bonds, what I did is I created a generic script for you. And it's for some product that's really, really difficult to sell. So what we're going to be doing for the next 2 days is I want you to pretend right now you're selling not what you're selling day to day. You're selling a generic product. And I'm going to show you how to sell a generic product over the phone, okay? And it's a $4,000 product, $4,000 product to people that you don't know, that you've never spoken to before. And basically, you're going to have 4 seconds to capture their imagination and 1 call to close the sale. Now, just so you know, the reason I picked this kind of product, it's like being trained to be a Navy SEAL, right? Once you go through this rigorous training, everything else seems pretty easy, right? So my goal is to show you how to sell something right now that is really, really hard to sell. And then you'll say, geez, wow, I can sell that. So when you go back to selling whatever it is, a $90 product to get them into a funnel or a $300, whatever it might be, it's going to seem really, really easy. Because the techniques to sell, it doesn't matter. You could be selling anything, okay? So we're going to pick a product. What it is, it's a seminar, actually, and it's a training that I did in England, where I was training this company. I walked in, and it was the worst sales force in history. I'm dysfunctional on every level. The manager was ripping off the boss, so he was like kicking back and like looking at the racing charts. The manager, okay? The salespeople were running hog wild. They were closing, I think, 30 sales a month. 30 sales a month. And they had the worst scripts ever. And I went in, I trained them for 2.5 days. And the next month, in that month, they closed 112 sales. They went 400%. And just it was 3 weeks. And now I think the company tripled, up 300% over 6 months by switching from what they were doing, which was crap, to the straight line. And I wrote every script for them. I showed them how to manage the sale, the whole 9 yards, okay? So we're going to take that product to seminar company, okay, just to give you some basis here to insert yourself in. So what I want you to do is please play full out, though, because I'm going to actually show you some very powerful stuff with tonal patterns. So it's very important that when you're going through this to really ignite a certain... See, what happens is this. We all have massive talent within us, and sometimes you have one of those days, right, where you're really, really on. And sometimes you're really, really off. You go, I can't believe I said that. I can't believe I did that. I'm such an idiot, right? We have those moments. We just can't close a door. Other days, we're just on the money. Everything we say is perfect. My goal is I want to show you how to ignite those feelings, those emotions from when you're really, really on, and show you what it was that you were doing on those particular days, the way you were speaking, the way you were moving, the patterns, the language patterns you were running. So we're going to do that by I'm going to actually make you sell right in the room, so you actually feel it. It's very powerful, okay? So real quick, here's the system, okay? Straight line system, okay? It's goal-oriented versus random conversations. That's the key, okay? You're not picking up a phone or going face-to-face for your health. You're there for one reason, to close. I'll tell you, I have a son. He's the greatest kid in the world, right? He's a great soccer player. He's fabulous. He's 14 years old. Since the time he was 9, he was an unbelievable soccer player. And I watch him play, but for some reason, he never wanted to score. I was like, look at the fucking goal card. It's called, look at the goal. Just look at the goal. And it wasn't what he was doing. He was a great playmaker and a passer, and that's great. And I love watching him play. But he wasn't goal-oriented. He wasn't looking at the promised land. What you have to do as a salesperson is every time you go into an encounter, you have to understand what your outcome is. And your outcome is this, to close. You're not there for your health. You're not there for the other person's health. You are there to close. It is as simple as that. And that one distinction, by the way, when you walk into a room, to understand why you're really there, not to make friends. Listen, I'm sure they're nice people that you're selling, right? They're great people, but we all have a lot of friends. We're not looking for new ones. Okay, you're there to make money. You're there to close, okay? So this is goal-oriented selling, okay? There are 3 tenets to the straight line that you need to know. Very, very basic. Number 1, you're going to develop instant rapport on both a conscious and an unconscious level. I'm going to show you how to do that. More powerful is the unconscious level. And just so you know what rapport is not, the biggest mistake I see novice salespeople make when they go to meet somebody, if they walk into an office and there's a fish on the wall, they'll talk about the fish. No one cares about the damn fish. Okay? When you go into someone's office, developing rapport is not about just playing into what their life is all about. If he says he was in a hunting trip in, North Carolina or South Carolina, you don't say, oh, really? Tell me all about the hunting trip. Next thing you know, you're talking about crocodiles and alligators, whatever else is in the Carolinas, right? And what's going on in this hunting trip. That's not how you develop rapport with somebody. You develop rapport with someone when they realize that you're an expert. Instantly. When they realize that you're a person that can help them achieve goals. Instantly. That's how you develop rapport. You develop rapport when they know you care. Not about their stupid story. And I'm sure the story's fine, but that's not what makes people want to do business with you. It's when they know that you can help them achieve their goals and, most importantly, take control of your life. So number 1, you're going to learn in the first 4 seconds to develop instant unconscious rapport, which will then turn to conscious rapport. Number 2, okay, you're going to learn to gather intelligence. There are certain specific questions that you need to ask somebody. And they're slightly different based on what you're selling. But the problem with a lot of salespeople is they talk a lot more than they listen. Asking questions, the right questions, not any questions, the right questions, is crucial to understanding exactly what your client's needs are. So again, I'm not like one of these hard-selling people. It's like, just barrel through it. No, this is elegant. It is elegant. Okay? But it happens in a very logical way. And each time you do it, what you're doing is this. If you start off here, each thing that you do takes you slightly down the line. You're always moving forward, pushing forward in your sale, rather than just spiraling out of control like most novice salespeople do. And anyone here a sales manager? Anyone a manager? Great. We got 1, 2, 4. Great. This is manna from heaven for a sales manager. Because it allows you to take new people that have no experience and actually show them the concept of moving a sale forward. So, you can develop rapport and be moving towards the close at the same time. You can answer an objection and be moving towards the close at the same time. Everyone get this? It's not one or, that's why I said those things are crap. It's not like you say, okay, I'm going to spend 32 seconds developing rapport. I'm done developing rapport. You're developing rapport when the guy is writing out when he's signing the order, you're still developing rapport. It never ends. You're still qualifying the guy. Even after he said yes. Because then you're trying to find out what his aliveness is. And I'll get into that later. So after the sale, you can develop a customer for life. There is no pie chart of it starts here in the it's all the same. Okay? You're starting off here. You're looking to go here. This is the promised land. And every single word out of your mouth has to be deliberate. It has to be looking to get you to here, to get the guy what he wants so you can get paid. Now, understand this. If you're qualifying the guy and your product does not suit his need, what are you going to do? You're going to push him? No. You end the encounter. That's the key. In other words, when you're qualifying somebody, you don't want to be pitching unqualified people. You don't want to be slamming unqualified people close. And if your product, by the way, isn't good for them, try to find them one that is. Send them to your competitor. That's what it takes. That's what it's not about just slamming anybody close. And it can be, and I used it that way, and I paid the price emotionally with my freedom, money. But if you use the straight line the right way, you will just get filthy rich in a really, really short period of time. Okay, so that's number 2, is to gather intelligence. Number 3 is controlling the sale by keeping it on the line and moving it from here to here. Now, you see I drew these two dotted lines above and below. Okay? So let me just explain to you real quick exactly what this means, and then we'll move forward. The straight line represents the perfect sale. That means everything went exactly right. You walked in the door, they loved you, or you're on the phone, they said, oh yeah, everything's great, and you asked them if they were interested. Yes, I'd love to hear. Great. You tell them what your product's about. Oh my God, it sounds wonderful. You say, listen, it costs X dollars. Great. How do I get started? How often does that happen? Right? Not too often. That's the perfect sale on the line. Okay? What happens more often than not, though, okay, is that you try to move down the line, and you keep going, and he keeps trying to get you off the line out here into Pluto. He doesn't say what you want. He doesn't follow your preconceived notion about what the sale should be. And you're sitting there trying to, it's like you're like a Dutchman sticking your finger in the dike trying to stop all the leaks, right? Rather than realizing that before you even start the sale, before you walk in the door, before you pick up the phone, before anything starts, you realize that A, your goal is to keep it from here to go to here on the line. He's going to try to take you off the line. So what you need to do is, in a very elegant way that empowers him and that empowers you, is keep him on the line or close to it. And in these boundaries here, when he's off the line, you're going to do two things. You're going to, one, develop rapport, and two, gather intelligence. That's what happens when you're off the line. When you're on the line and everything is going as he should, you're talking, he's saying, and he says, great. How much does it cost? You say X. He says, great. Closed. That's the exception to the rule. There'd be 1 out of 100 sales. Is that simple? So what really happens in the real world is as you're looking to take him down the line, he's looking to push you off the line. So what you're going to learn is some very specific strategies that allow you to stop him from going too far, because this is the control. You're here, you're in control. If you're here, you're out of control. And you've lost the guy. You're out of rapport. He's off the sale, and you're losing time and money, and you're wasting your own time. You can't close the guy when he's out here. Okay? When he's here, you can't close him either. You can close the guy when he's between here and here. So you're going to learn strategies that are really, really effective and make him love you, or him or her love you, is to stop them, move them forward, and bring them back to the line. Okay? And that's really the essence, the structure of the straight line. Through becoming what's called unconsciously competent. There are 4 levels of learning. Okay, let me tell you what the levels are. Some of you might know, if you've been through any self-development, this is some very basic stuff, but it's important here. The first level is called being unconsciously incompetent. And what that means is this. When you first start doing something, you know so little about it, you basically know nothing. You don't know what you don't know. This is a very scary spot to be in. When you're thrown into a situation and you're a complete novice, you say, geez, I'd love to get better at this, but I haven't the slightest idea what I don't know. Everyone follow that concept? This is what most people start off, okay? The next level is becoming consciously incompetent. That means that you're like, Jesus Christ, I don't know anything. You're like, there's this, there's that, there's all these strategies. They all sound great. I don't know them. That's the next level. Next level above that is called being consciously competent. Consciously competent means that you're good at something, but you can't really do it with your eyes closed yet. You're good, but it requires all your focus and your mental energy. Like, remember when we were kids growing up, you learned to tie your shoe. In the beginning, you like tie your shoe, like you're putting your things across, and someone says, excuse me, like, don't interrupt me. You can't tie your shoe and have a conversation at the same time, right? That's when you're consciously competent in something. It requires all your conscious focus. The next level above that is called being unconscious competence. And that means when you're really, really great at something, you can do it without thinking about it. And the only way to get from conscious competence to unconscious competence is through practice. There's no other way. By drilling it into your head again and again and again and again and again until your brain just clicks, and all of a sudden you're using the unconscious part of your mind, which is infinitely more powerful than your conscious mind. Your conscious mind is maybe 10%, your unconscious mind 90%. It's like 10 times more powerful. So it's a dramatic difference. You're going to get there through forced repetition, by practicing, by just going out and doing it. And one day, all of a sudden, click, you'll be unconsciously competent at it. It takes about 3 or 4 weeks of really, really trying to get unconsciously competent at something. So it doesn't happen overnight, but don't worry. Even when you're consciously competent, you'll still be doing great. That's why you'll get a quick bump of 30 to 50% right when you leave here in your sales. But about a month later, you'll double your sales if you're working. That's how powerful the system is. Okay. I want to give you an example here. Everyone knows this is a stop sign, right? Okay? Now, stop sign is what color, everybody? Red, right? Okay, and how about a yield sign, right? What color is a yield sign? Yellow, right? Okay. That's a yield sign. It's yellow, right? Okay? Guess what? For 10 years, yield signs have been red. There are no yellow yield signs. There are none. Why do we all think they're yellow? Okay? Our unconscious mind made a picture of yellow. They're not yellow. I promise, go out there, you'll see today, they're all red. They changed them 10 years ago. When I saw this, I was blown away. I'm like, Jesus Christ. I thought they're all, I look at them, I see yellow. Okay? That's how powerful your unconscious mind is. It rules your conscious mind. We have these triggers that we bypass to save time in the world. Okay? We run patterns in our head. You have a pattern that says when I see a sign triangular, it's a yield sign. You just assume it's yellow because it was when you were a kid. If you ask someone that's younger, they'll tell you it's red. Like, it's red. My daughter's red because you learned to drive with red yield signs, right? You go by and you think they're yellow. Okay? You're going to learn, you're going to learn to use this basic strategy to get people to buy. Okay? You're going to learn to bypass people's conscious blocks to get to the unconscious, and they'll buy. Okay? So here's the deal. We're going to set goals today. We're all going to set goals. But the next 2 days is about tactics. I know you've probably been to some seminars, right? And they're going to tell you, go out and set 30-day goals, 60-day goals, all this sort of stuff, right? And they don't actually tell you how you're going to achieve them. Okay? I'm going to give you, this is all going to be pure tactic. Where you're going to learn actual real-world strategy. You know, if you haven't figured out, you saw the video, you know a little bit about me, I'm not a theoretical sort of guy. I'm just not. I don't come from the seminar world. I come from the real world. And I come from a special corner of the real world. My corner of the real world, everybody's rich. I come from a world of abundance, not scarcity. I come from a world where people that make $1 million a year are considered like, average. Seriously. That's Wall Street. That's where I came from. You hear about all these wacky bonuses and all this sort of stuff, right? You say, how do they make all this money, okay? Well, I'll tell you this. At the heart of Wall Street is sales. Stockbrokers are just glorified salesmen. Venture capitalists are salesmen. Investment bankers are salesmen. Most of my business, when I train people, it's Wall Street people looking to be trained. And not just brokers, investment bankers. This tactic here, the straight line, is the most powerful system for venture capital. And I know if you're any of you in business, who's in business for yourself here? Anybody? Raise your hand. Right, a lot of you, right? The most powerful skill to business is to raise money. For anything, for ventures, for whatnot, whatever you need, to talk to suppliers, to get credit. This system is not just for closing sales. It's for closing anything, including dates. Guys, girls, and girls, it works really good for that too, okay? But don't really use it for that unless you really want to, okay? But seriously, try to keep it for business, okay? You can use it, though, to get yourself dates, okay? It's about tactics, okay? Okay? I told you the most serious work, right? Okay? Now, here's something I want to touch on very, very briefly, okay? When you set goals in life, okay, your brain, you have the ability, and I'm going to show you how to do this tomorrow. You have the ability to use what's called your neuropsychology to make the goals much more powerful. Okay, to make your goals bigger and brighter. To expand on them. Okay, when I ask you to set goals, right, everybody, I want you to all raise your hand Raise your hand as high as you can. Everyone, raise your right hand as high as you can. As high as you can. Okay, now raise it a little bit higher. Okay. If I said raise it as high as your hand, then I said raise it, everyone raises it even higher, right? Right? I said the first time raise it as high as you can, but you didn't. Right? Because there's a level above what's comfortable, slightly higher and easily doable, but you got to stretch a bit. That's where I want you to set your goals for selling with a straight line, slightly above what you think is great. Not what you think is great, because you can blow that away. I don't want you to set it pie in the sky, because you'll say, I can't achieve it, it's too far out in the distance. So we learn to set goals just above what you think is possible. Okay? And you learn to make the goals bigger and brighter using visual technology in your head, auditory, kinesthetic, what you feel. And you're going to blow these goals up. You're going to learn to step inside these goals, okay? Meaning you're going to associate into your goal. And you can learn to run what's called positive thinking language patterns, okay? This is called self-talk. The first person you have to sell when you go out into the field is who? Bingo, yourself. The first person you're going to sell is you on the system that it works, on the job that you have, whatever sales job you have. If you're in sales, by the way, you know you're in business for yourself, right? Everyone know that. When you're a salesperson, you're in business for yourself. And you've got to treat it like your own business, okay? So you learn to run positive language patterns, okay? And you got to find your why. We're going to do all these three things by the close of business today. Okay, I'm going to show you some patterns to run to empower yourself, to get yourself into a peak state anytime you want. And especially right before you walk in the door and right before you pick up the phone. Okay? And lastly, you have to shed any programming that you have about sales being evil. You got to wipe it out of your brain. Sales is the most empowering profession in the world. It's a noble profession. Nothing happens in the world without sales. Nothing. Bill Gates is the best salesman in the world. He is a master. This guy, you know how he started Microsoft? He sold a company called Altair Computers to buy his program, which he did not have. He did not have the program that ultimately became Microsoft Windows. He didn't have it. He sold to them and then said, shit, now we got to go find it, right? Then they sold some local guy who had it, and they bought it from him on the sly, like they didn't pay him. Hey, can we buy it? And something. They bought it from him. They delivered, they got the money and transferred the money. He influenced everybody to listen to him as the expert. He sold himself as the expert and the guy who could help them achieve their goals and get what they want. That's how he started Microsoft. Is he a brain? He's brilliant. Is he a hard worker? Yeah. But if there's one skill that defines Bill Gates, besides vision, it's his ability to persuade. Bill Gates is one of the greatest salesmen on earth. Next, Warren Buffett. Think he's a great salesperson? Yes or no? Yes, right? And he says two things. Number one, the single most valuable skill in his life is the ability to persuade. In fact, he was such an awful persuader, and he admits this, that in 1960 or 61, he took a Dale Carnegie course, which back then was the gold standard. Now it's like, you say someone's name 8 times, it doesn't really work anymore, but back in 1960 it did, right? Warren Buffett took a Dale Carnegie course, and it changed his life. If you go into Warren Buffett's office, the only diploma he has on his wall is from a Dale Carnegie course. That's it. He doesn't, and the school, nothing up there. It was a single defining moment, the ability to persuade other people. When Warren Buffett buys a company, he's the master persuader. How about this person? Persuader or not? Sales, yes or no? Okay. The greatest marketer of all time. The whole entire world. You know what a herd is? Like a herd to the back of the room, right? She has the whole world as her herd. Oprah Winfrey says something and people just do it. She has these loads of women all over the world. You ever see this woman who, for 1 year did everything Oprah said? Okay? I mean, this is influence or not? She's the greatest salesman on earth, Oprah. Is she other things too? Yes, she's humanitarian. She's altruistic. She's brilliant. She works hard. She's a visionary, but she's a persuader. But there's more to it than that. there are other skills required too to really become successful. And one of them, and a big one, is not being scared to fail. Not having fear of failure, and not having fear of looking stupid. We have this awful fear as human beings. We don't want to look like fools. Sometimes you got to look foolish in the name of progress. I'll give you another metaphor about my son, and I love, we're really close. I have a daughter too. I'll show you a picture later. She's a great girl. She's 16 years old. She's got a boyfriend. It's a whole 9 yards, okay? My son's 14. He's fabulous. And we're having this conversation about when he plays in sports or when he does something about, do you go full out or do you not? And I see sometimes in him that when he's out on the field or doing something, he doesn't play full out, and he'll have an excuse. Like my leg hurts, or my arm hurts, or something happened, the coach was unfair, whatever, the referee was unfair. And what happens with people is we tend to go out into the world and we look for those sort of excuses about why things aren't the way we want them. And when you do that, you lose all your power in life. When you start focusing on the external, on the excuses, you lose your power. Here's the way people really think. I will tell you, I can go out onto stage and bomb. You go out there and you just bomb, right? And people will respect you for going out there and trying your hardest. It's not how you actually perform that earns you the respect of your peers. It's the fact that you went out and actually did it. That's the difference. So if you're out there right now and you're a new salesperson or you're struggling as a salesperson, there's no embarrassment in the struggle. There's just not. The embarrassment is in quitting. The embarrassment is in not trying your hardest. And I was trying to explain the distinction to my son, because I know inside he feels like, everyone's a crowd, he's a great player, so he thinks that maybe he didn't live up to our expectations, and in some way that makes him not feel good inside. And I'm explaining, Carter, this is the hardest thing to learn in life, but you have to remember that all people care about is how much heart you have when you go about doing something. So as a salesperson, salesman, saleswoman, it's about your heart. Are you going at it with everything, from here up internally, or are you just going through the motions and blaming your boss, blaming the lead source? You can always blame the lead source, right? You can blame the economy. There's a million reasons why you're not selling as much as you could. Things aren't going the way you want them. They're all excuses. And I call it, it's your story. And we have that story. It's like a circuit breaker for fear. We come up with a story of why things aren't the way we want them, and we hold on to that story, and it stops us from moving forward. In truth, here's what it is. The only thing that stops you from getting what you want in life is the bullshit story you tell yourself of why you can't have it. You get that? What stops you back is the story, because the story stops you from getting honest. And if you can't get honest with yourself, there's no way you can go. Imagine like this. Success in sales and life, it's like a roadmap, right? You know where you want to go, and you have this perfect strategy, the straight line to get there. It's a perfect strategy. It's going to get you there every single time. But if you don't know your starting point, if you're not getting honest with where you actually are, it doesn't matter how powerful the strategy is, and it doesn't matter how powerful your goal is. I'm going to ask you to set a goal today, right? A 60-day goal. And let's say you really set this goal, and I'll show you how to do it in a brilliant way. So it's visceral. So it makes you really feel it. You see it, you sense it, you smell the goal. That's step one. I'm going to teach you the straight line, which is your strategy to get to your goal. But if you're not honest with where you are right now, your starting point, the map is worthless. There's three things that you need to know: where you are, where you want to go, and how you're going to get there. Those are the three things you must have to take advantage of any opportunity. I'm going to give you the strategy. I'm going to ask you to tell me exactly where you want to go for yourself. You got to get honest. Don't blame the boss. Don't blame the leads. Don't blame your job. Don't blame the industry you're in. Just get honest. If you don't like your industry, find another one. Selling. You can sell anything. You can sell one product, you can sell anything, okay? So that's the bottom. Oprah Winfrey, another killer, right? Salesperson. Next. Two types of people. Okay? And this is great for salespeople. okay? Those who get everything they want in life. Those people are influencers. They get a vision in their mind, they step into that vision, and they go for it. And they get what they want in life. As simple as that. That group is 5% of the world. And those are rich people. Very simply, successful people. The people that get what they want in life. They live life empowered. Then you have the other 95% who get nothing. They are creatures of circumstances. You know what a creature of circumstances? It's someone that goes through life thinking that life happens to them. That's a creature of, you are not creatures of circumstance. Man is a creator of circumstance. You make the world your way. Here's what you do. You see things as they are in the world, not worse than they are, which is what a lot of people do. They say, oh my God, it's so terrible. The plight is so awful. I could never possibly do anything, so they don't take action. They see things worse than they are. And you get paralyzed with fear, saying it's too hard, there's no way out. So see things as they are, not worse than they are, and then see them better than they are, and you make them that way, and that's your goal, your vision for the future.
So welcome to The Straight Line. Glad to have you on board and on the path to wealth and success and to be a master of persuasion and influence. I will tell you this, maybe you're still a little bit skeptical, and I get that. You know, when we embrace something new for the first time, we have a tendency, that voice in the back of our heads, to say it won't work. Maybe it works for everybody else, but not us. And I get that. And what that really is, it's the fact that at this level of learning, you've just become unconsciously competent, where now you know there's a lot of stuff that you need to know. Before, you were unconsciously incompetent. You didn't know what you needed to know. So we're at that second level now, and it's a bit scary sometimes. And I think I've used the metaphor in the past of what a baby does when it learns to walk. And, you know, of course, the baby doesn't start to walk on the first couple of tries. Probably takes him 50, 100, or 200 tries. And even when he does walk, he's doing the old Frankenstein walk. But the baby doesn't care. The baby knows it's not supposed to look perfect the first time. But, of course, soon enough, the baby's running, and it looks perfect. Somewhere along the way, most of us lost that, and we think we're supposed to be perfect at things the first time. That's not true. You can make mistakes, and people will respect you more afterwards because you overcame those early challenges and embraced something that helped you really soar to a new level of wealth and success. So here is something very important I want to share with you right now, and that's the ability now to leverage what you just learned and bring it out into the real world. So I want you to take 2 actions right now in the real world based on what you just learned. Not 100 actions, not 50, just 2. Something that you saw that made sense to you specifically, I want you to act on it right now. Or tomorrow if it's nighttime and you go out into the field, whatever you're doing, I want you to learn to take these skills that you've just heard and you visualized it, but take them now into the real world. So you've done something very important. You don't know it, but here's what it is. Not only did you commit to taking action by opening up this box and putting the DVD in the player, but you've actually taken action by watching the whole thing, going through the workbook. That's huge. So just that alone right now puts you at a much higher level than most people, because most people never even take any action. They talk about taking action, they'll write down things about taking action, but they don't ever take action. So I want you to now parlay what you just did and take 2 actions in the real world, whatever they are. And I want you to, don't care how you look. If you know you're a little bit lumbering over them, it's perfectly understandable. Pretty soon, it'll be elegant. You'll do it second nature. And the second thing I want you to do is I want you to write down what your whys are in life. Why is this important to you? Why do you want to learn to master the art of persuasion and influence? What's it going to give you? Not just money. Let me tell you something. Money, you're going to see once you master this straight line, money will roll in avalanches of abundance. That's how it is. And just so you know, I've done this with, like I said, 12,000 people over the years. They all became million-dollar producers and went on to become very wealthy people in the real world, a variety of businesses. So the money's easy. What I want you to focus on now is the why at a higher level. You know, what is it that you would do with the money? Who are the people that you can help? The people especially you love and can help. Is it your children, putting aside money for a college fund? Is it buying a house that you've always dreamed of? Is it, retiring your parents? Is it donating to charities that are worthy and that need money? The whys that you have in your life are what really allow you to transcend just being a goal setter to being a visionary, to knowing at a higher level what you're really looking to accomplish, what turns you on here and makes you jump out of bed in the morning. I'll tell you real quickly before I let you go back to the next DVD. When I was in jail and I was at the worst and the lowest point of my life, I had my whys, and those were the faces of my children. I knew that if I gave up then, I would disappoint my children. I would never be a father for them they could look up to as a role model. And that's what allowed me more than anything was to fight through all that negativity and the boredom and the tediousness of being locked away, and actually propelled me to sitting down and writing my first book, because I refused to give up because I had my why. And I also had a level of excellence that I held myself to, my standards for living. I would not give up. I did whatever it took because I knew my why. So write down your whys tonight. Take those 2 actions tomorrow, and believe me, you'll be glad you did. You'll see huge results. So now let's move on to Module 2, and let's rock and roll. See you soon.